Hey, I hope you're well. Quick story today about a student that I was working with last week, and it's just a perfect illustration of a truth having to do with getting better at tennis, or frankly, getting better at anything. So we started off working on his forehand, and it was very typical. If you've been following me for a while, strong, athletic guy, been playing tennis and lots of other sports his entire life. He was not using his body enough and he was overusing his arm. So at contact, his body was still sideways, not totally sideways. He had turned his body a little bit, but just maybe halfway there. And he was used to really using his arm to hit the ball. He was big enough, strong enough guy, athletic enough guy. It never really bothered his arm. And he could still hit a good shot. He was a 4-0 player. But if he wanted to be a 4-5 player, which is his goal, be consistently winning at 4.5, there's no way with a rigid, tight, arm swing that he's going to be able to hit a strong enough shot consistently enough, create the curve and the margin he needs without loosening up his arm. And you can't loosen up your arm without your body doing more of the work. So typical, right? Then we moved on to his return of serve. And it was funny, Matt and myself, my assistant coach and me working with him, it was obvious he wanted like something different. Like there must be some other additional reason why I'm having a hard time with my return of serve. And it was the same symptoms. He could hit a hard shot, but it just wasn't consistent. He could hit the ball strongly, but it was like a laser over the top of the net. And so he had a really hard time, especially against hard serves, being able to find the court because everything just kind of went like a rocket off his racket straight and either into the net or too long, or if it was just right over the top of the net, then it would go in. So it was the same focus. We got to use your body a little more so your arm can relax. Then we can have a little feel here and a little bit of shape. And even against stronger, especially against stronger, harder incoming serves, we can absorb a little bit and be, a little bit more calm and relaxed because your arm isn't having to, at the last second, kind of freak out and do all the work and swing through really tightly. Then another part of his game that he really was struggling with was short transition shots, really typical, right? And it was the kind of mid-court, lower bouncing shots. And his symptoms were kind of similar. Well, he could like push it or chip it, but that wasn't competitive against the 4 or 5 players he was playing with. And he could hit it hard, but it was really inconsistent. It would have to go just over the top of the net to go in. And so he would hit the net a lot. He would like hit the back curtain because, surprise, surprise, his body wasn't doing enough of the work. And so his arm had to swing. And so his arm got tight and rigid. And so everything was being delivered really level and really straight, like just like a laser off the racket face. So, to me, looking back on this student, it was just such a almost kind of funny but perfect illustration of the principles are the principles are the principles. It's like if you can't do it correctly, the fundamentals, using the body, relaxing the arm, if you can't do that in one scenario, then you're going to struggle using it in another one. And while there are, of course, nuances and differences to a rally ground stroke and a short sitter approach shot, transition shot, and return of serve, at the end of the day, they all share the same core DNA of forehand ground stroke. And so if across the board, in the example of this student, if across the board the body isn't active enough and the arm is overactive, and if the arm is rigid and tight and tense, and so the shot isn't curved, then there you go. There's the ceiling. There's the element that's going to be restricting the improvement of this player. That's the obstacle. But it's funny how students so typically want a different secret. They want a different insight. They want to believe that, oh, but this is a special situation and I'm a special case. I'm not saying that of this student specifically, but the general kind of underflow attitude among people who are trying to get better in anything is they want to believe that there's some other insight, that they're just missing. Oh, if they just had this one little tip on this little bit different situation, then they would instantly unlock, and it would all be perfect. It was almost kind of disappointing to this student. Maybe I'm filling in the blanks a little bit too much, but I almost felt like it was a little bit disappointing to this student that it basically kept coming back to the same thing. And it was like it was almost like he was hoping there was some other like additional nuance to it, but it was the same. It's the same stuff, guys. It's the same stuff. And so when I go from student to student, from level to level, from stroke to stroke, serve, forehand, volley, whatever, using the body more, relaxing the arm and hand, to me, it's so repetitive and it keeps coming up again and again. So how can you apply this, to yourself? Different people have different elements that they're struggling with and they're stuck with. So I'm not trying to say that this one thing is going to fix every stroke for every player, in the entire world. Like, that's definitely not the case. But whatever fundamental flaw that you have on a particular shot is going to be very universal across all different situations with that shot. So if your backhand, tends to be close to you on a return of serve, then probably on a rally ball too, and probably on a short sitter too, and probably on a high bouncing shot, and probably when you're taking it on the rise, and all the other situations and scenarios. It's going to circle back around to that core fundamental thing. So it might feel boring at first that that's the case, but it's really a huge blessing because we don't have to look for some independent, different, special thing to fix for all those different scenarios. Once we have a bad habit ingrained, that bad habit is there. And it doesn't really matter much. It might show up to a stronger or a lesser degree if we're under more stress or less stress, but it's going to keep showing up, whether we want it to or not. And whether it's a little bit different situation or the same vanilla, shot again and again and again, whether you're hitting with a ball machine or hitting against like Ben, MEP, and it's giving you something a little different every single shot, that habit's still going to pop up. And so you have to address whatever the fundamental thing is and overwrite that before everything else on top of it really becomes relevant. So hopefully that makes sense. Interesting case study with the students. And I just wanted to pass on that lesson that was really clear to me working with him. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're making progress with your game. Take care, and I'll watch you. I guess you'll watch me. I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks. Take care.